for a moment of silence and the pledge. And now the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call our meeting to order. We'll begin with the approval of the minutes of June 14th. Commissioner Kiefer, I believe you were absent that day. This is a polite reminder to you. Is there any additions, changes? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Have a first and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Commissioner reports and comments. Vice President Baker, would you begin?
Good morning. Welcome back. Hope everyone had a great week. And I see Superintendent Dr. Michael in attendance, Boyd. Just want to thank you for your many years of service to Washington County. Your pillar in the community, your family's pillars in the community, and at your event the other evening, I noticed you and Mr. Leatherman there. You know Mr. Leatherman, ag teacher, and he taught, I think, for over 40 years also. And I was just standing there thinking about all of the lives you two had touched over the 43-year longevity and his, and just how many kids in Washington County, that thousands, that you two touched, and were probably the reason many of them had graduated from high school and stayed in school because of your programs and what you meant to, how you taught kids, and just how you just loved kids and being around them. So just want to thank you for your many years of service, and congratulations, and wish you the best, and you'll get to hunt a little more now. So, thank you.
Mr. Baker, anything else?
No, that's it. That concludes my
Commissioner Kiefer?
Yes, just following up on Commissioner Baker's comments. First of all, I wish Dr. Savine the best of luck as he takes the helm of, I suppose, 22,000 or more students and thousands of faculty and staff members for the Board of Ed. That's an important role, and I think we have been very blessed to have Dr. Michael as our superintendent. I joke once in a while when we're in public that he probably doesn't remember me when he was my principal in middle school, because I was a rather well-behaved student.
Long time ago.
But if I mention my sister's name, Julie, his face might get a little red. I'm sure she's a little more memorable than I was. But thanks for what you've done for our school system. Haven't always agreed on some things, but that's okay. And it's great to see that the Tech High School, I believe, has been renamed in your honor. And that's quite a monument, a legacy to leave behind. So congratulations and all those fun things you plan to do after retirement. But you still have 3 days, I believe. Would like to report that I attended a week or two ago a couple days of the MML conference so that I could finish my certificate from the University of Maryland, the Academy of Public Excellence. And this was something I started before COVID, and when some of those meetings were halted for a while, I think they extended the deadline that you had to complete the courses to get your certificate. So I was able to finish up last week. Just thought it might be interesting to share some of the courses that were required for that program, all very relevant to county government: basics of risk management, conducting effective meetings, consensus and team building, county financial management, employment issues, ethics, open meetings, and the Public Information Act. And the Open Meetings Act, I believe, became a requirement for elected officials. One person on each board has to at least take in that class, and I know several of us have at this point, in order to go into a closed session meeting. So that was a class I took in 2017. But it was great to see many of our fellow municipal leaders at that conference taking the same courses as well, so they can get their certificate, their counterpart at the municipal level. So just wanted to report on that. And then, as many of you know, I had a little accident, self-inflicted, last week, and it required a call to 911. I just want to thank our county employees who handled that call, Sharpsburg EMS for helping me out that day. And, you know, we get we get calls from time to time from the public that they don't like. Sometimes that when you call 911, you have to state your address a couple times, and there's an important reason for that to get it right. And just in my state of confusion, I got the address wrong. And same road, wrong number, so they were a couple miles away. That called an entirely different ambulance rather than the one that I needed. So there's a reason. You know, I know it's a tough time when you have to call 911 and make that call, but just ask anyone out there to please have that patience, and we need to get the emergency services workers to you at the right place, wherever you might be. So to restate that address, that's a good thing. So we get help to you in time. But just want to thank everyone who helped me out last week. I needed it. That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Burkett?
Good morning, everyone. Congratulations, Dr. Michael. I don't know you as well as maybe some of these. I've only gotten to know you over the last year, but I think I've seen your heart for what you do. And anyway, thank you. Not much for me today. Since we met 2 weeks ago, I attended several business openings. I think there was 5 or 6 different grand openings. It's really exciting to see all that's going on here in Washington County and in our different municipalities. On June 16th, I attended the regular monthly meeting of the Washington County Housing Authority, and hopefully everyone had a chance to review an issue that's going to be coming up later that we are going to be addressing on our agenda. That's all for me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Wagner?
Good morning. I too, Dr. Michael. You know, what sticks out about me and you is I have 2 family members that were educators under you, and they have nothing but great things to say. And the main thing sticks out about, no matter where I go, if it's anything connected with a school function, you're there. You're in the back door and out you're there and making sure things are going good. And that's what I remember the most. No matter where I went, you were there. So you were on the job. You weren't sitting home eating bonbons. You were out at every one of those events. There was a lot of openings of new businesses. Commissioner Burgett said a lot of businesses are. We had, I think we had 2 men in a truck, grocery outlet. Edward Jones in Boonesboro opened. I did attend a fishing rodeo down at Pleasant Valley, Roritan. That was a nice thing for the kids. The only other request I'd make would be to John and staff would be, all these commissioners want this, and we've been talking about it, and I hopefully you're working on, which I think you are, that whatever surplus number we might have is to maybe start really looking at that, because we're going to have a lot, like, it could be a capital, could be EMS. I don't know if there's a way to hold that in reserve so it would carry us for a few years or something, but.
Yeah, I met with Kelsey yesterday. We've been working on that. We've been looking at those numbers. I think we're going to get another distribution here pretty soon on income tax. So when we get that, we're going to come in hopefully within the next 30 days or so with some thoughts about that. And then we'd like to get your thoughts on that. So we'll have an exact number, and we'll be able to talk about where some of those things are. We talked about some of those things too. Money for reserves, some additional contributions to pension. We have some capital projects that we took off in future years. We rolled some of that back, that we would like to do some of that. So we have some thoughts about that. So probably in the next 30 days, we'll be in with our thoughts about that, and we'll be seeking your thoughts about that too.
Right.
And we'll have more of a specific number about what that's going to be.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Wagner, anything?
No, that's it for me.
Just one comment. Again, Dr. Michaels, thank you. My mom was a cafeteria worker for, I think, 23 years, and probably under your chain of command too, but thank you for all that you've done. And I think at one point you and I were in competition for taking selfies or photos at the many events that you and I both attended. But well noted that you were at many of those events, being out amongst your employees in the community. So I thank you for your years of service. With that being said, we will now go to staff comments. Is there any staff in the audience? Seeing none. Krista, have you written down for something?
I have the Washington County Plumbing and Mechanical Board requesting that you accept the recommendation to reappoint Arnold Eby to serve as a member at large for a 6th 3-year term from February 1st, 2022 through January 31st, 2025. And to reappoint Charlie Simler to serve as a representative of the building industry on a 6-year term from February 1st, 2022 through January 31st, 2025. And with those approvals, we are requesting a consensus for the exception to the 2-term limit as outlined in the bylaws.
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Thank you. That's all I
Anything
have.
else? Mr. Downey,
Nothing this morning. Thank you.
Mr. County Administrator?
Thank you, President Klein. Good morning, Commissioners. Just a few things. I was out of town last week, so I want to thank staff for carrying the ball and giving me a few days rest, so I really appreciate that, and the Commissioners. Next week is the 4th of July, so 4th of July week, so there will be no County Commissioner meeting next week. There will be a County Commissioner meeting on the 12th, and there'll be no meeting on the 19th. That's primary election day. So we'll meet again on the 26th. So we're doing every other week for the next few weeks. And the final thing I'll say, I'll take some time. Dr. Michael, thank you very much for all your service to the students and citizens of Washington County. And to me personally, I had the pleasure of working for Dr. Michael for a few years, right in the middle of COVID. So that group back there, we spent a lot of time working on that, so I got to see behind the scenes what all the staff did, but what you did during COVID. I think everybody appreciates it, but I appreciate it because I was right there. So thank you very much on behalf of the citizens and the students and all the staff in Washington County, and for me personally. So good luck in your retirement, and I will see you, I'm sure. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it.
Moving on, next up is citizens' participation. This is an opportunity for citizens to comment about an issue or issues of county practices and interests. This is not an interactive dialogue or question and answer session. It's solely the time to hear citizen comment. Please limit your remarks to as close as 3 minutes or under as possible. Thank you. Is there anyone here for citizens' comment in the first row? Second row, Dr. Michaels, please come forward. Is it current superintendent or next to be soon retired?
Soon to be retired, for
labeled?
sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners, for those kind comments. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed serving Washington County Public Schools, our students and our citizens, and, I did the best I could. That's what I'll say about that, but I appreciate the kind comments. I'm going to go ahead and kind of read this to stay close to the 3-minute time frame. I might go over slightly. Normally, I would just paraphrase
we'll give
things,
you a
but
few.
I'll go here as quick as I can, Commissioner. Good morning. For the record, my name is Boyd Michael. I am superintendent for Washington County Public Schools, at least for 2 more days after today. Our offices are located at 10435 Downsville Pike. I'm here today to express my appreciation to the Board of County Commissioners for your support and recent funding of public education beyond the minimal requirement of public law. For the upcoming fiscal year, the Commissioners are providing approximately $2.3 million above maintenance of effort. The 3.05 increase in local funding over the FY22 budget is very helpful in meeting the needs of students and preparing them for their future. As I head into retirement, I feel an obligation to share with you the realistic perspective of what is likely to come. The ball is now rolling on the blueprint for Maryland's future. This state legislation invests billions of dollars in restricted dollars into education through Maryland over the next decade. Despite this investment, there will continue to be growing gaps in Washington County Public Schools general fund that need to be addressed in order to meet the needs of children. Employers across the nation have been dealing with a labor shortage since the pandemic has begun. Washington County Public Schools is no exception. In my 43-year career, I've never seen staffing situation as dire as the one we are now experiencing. The teacher shortage that existed prior to the pandemic has been exacerbated by the pandemic and the challenges of working conditions that have changed, particularly as a result of changing behaviors of students. Research confirms that teachers are the #1 factor that school districts can control that positively impacts student achievement. Washington County has hired right now approximately 90 new teachers for the upcoming school year, but unfortunately, we still have 45 openings for classroom teachers to be filled. More than 20 of those openings are in positions of special education or related services. While WCPS has been successful in securing 5 science teachers for next year, which is hard and rare to find, 4 openings still remain, and I'm concerned they're going to be difficult to fill. Soon we'll be starting into July with a dry applicant pool for special ed and for science, and limited numbers of applicants in the other teaching areas to prepare for our children. It should be noted that the candidates in the limited pool are also considering other school jurisdictions as well. I hope I am wrong. I absolutely hope that I am wrong. But I see far more than one scenario where students will be lucky to have an uncertified teacher as their instructor in August. Of greater concern to me is the very realistic possibility that for a full year, students might have a substitute, or worse yet, several substitute teachers with little to no knowledge of our curriculum and limited qualified experience. I know you would agree, our children deserve better. In addition to those teaching challenges, we've also seen record openings among our support staff this year. Washington County has experienced 268 support staff retirement and resignations this year. In comparison, over the last 4 years, we've averaged 135 per year. So we have nearly doubled in those vacancies. A critical need right now is for prepare professionals who directly support both students and teachers in the classroom. Many of these staff members work with their students who have high needs in special education or who have very challenging behaviors. Because it is hard to attract parapros for these positions, and these individuals are necessary to educate our students, we have had to pay a premium to contractors to fill these jobs in the short term. It has also been difficult to hire custodians. We've never had this challenge. To hire custodians who are needed to help keep our schools clean and safe, and also bus drivers who we count on to transport our precious cargo every day. While WCPS has taken the initiative to enhance compensation and benefits for all critical employees within our means, it is simply not enough. Another unprecedented change for this year is what we've seen among the administrative ranks. Research again confirms school leadership. School leadership is the second most significant factor that affects student achievement. Over the last school year, we have lost 27 administrators. We've lost 27 administrators. And what is even more challenging, many of those people left mid-year. Normally we lose people between June and July, accepting new positions in July, but many of these people left mid-year. Compare that 27 to the past 4 years, we average about 15 over the last 4 years. So again, we've nearly doubled in the number of people that have opened this year. I hope that you would agree with me that WCPS must recruit and retain the most highly qualified and skilled staff to change the lives of children forever for the good. We have witnessed this year that our staff are leaving work to work in other school districts around the region or leaving the profession altogether. They are finding opportunities where the pay is higher, the responsibilities are lighter, and the stress is lower. In the last 3 years, WCPS took strategic action to raise our starting salary for teachers, making Washington County Public Schools the highest starting salary in the state of Maryland. This was by design. This was critical that we did this. This one action, in cooperation with our local association and the Board of Education, is what has avoided the crisis at this point. The blueprint is going to change all that. By July of 2026, the starting salary for all teachers in Maryland must be $60,000 or more. Now, we're far less than $60,000 right now, but by 2026, every school district must be $60,000 or more. When this happens, Washington County's edge will be gone. We are no longer interviewing teachers. Teachers are interviewing us as well as our community. When we began working on the budget for the upcoming year, I was finally excited to be able to give a reasonable salary enhancement to our staff. In the previous 2 years, we've been through what has been the most challenging time in education. We could only provide small increases to the various scales. Those increases included a 1% in FY21 and a 1.25% in FY22. There were no steps. The total compensation was 1% and 1.25%. No steps were provided. In fact, in FY22, it took all new money from the state, all new money from the county, and cuts to the existing budget to provide the 1.25% raise to our staff without a step. Now with July 1 raises coming, the equivalent of a step and 3.5%, that's all basically being wiped out by inflation. We are getting further and further behind. If Washington County Public Schools is going to provide highly qualified staff for every student, we must step up again to attract and retain employees and appropriately compensate the existing team. Without advanced preparation and action, this is a compounding crisis that is only going to get worse. Washington County will need your continued help to mitigate this crisis. Remember, we are talking about community children, the community's children, your children and grandchildren. They are also citizens of Washington County, and we collectively must ensure every student has an excellent teacher, support staff, and administrative team. As I prepare to begin my retirement, I would like to thank each one of you that are here today, as well as past county commissioners that I've worked with over my many years. I challenge you to plan ahead. We must plan ahead and work together with Dr. Suvine and the Board of Education to give our children the very best education possible so that the outcome for their future and for the future of Washington County looks bright. Your funding support, or lack thereof, will change the lives of children in this county forever. Thank you very much for the time to speak.
Thank you. Round of applause for that. Thank you, Doctor.
I do have copies of my comments I'd like to read.
Continuing with citizens' participation, anyone else? Second row, third row, any row thereafter? Seeing none, we'll move forward with the FY22 budget adjustments. Gentlemen, please come forward and introduce yourself. Welcome and good morning to you.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Jeff Pruitt, Chief Operating Officer for Washington County Schools.
Good morning, David Brandenburg, Executive Director of Finance for Washington County Schools.
The matter before you this morning is the FY22 budget adjustments to the Washington County Board of Education's general fund budget. As we tell you every time we come, as required by the Annotated Code of Maryland, any adjustments we're making that cross major category lines must be approved by the Board of Education and then approved by the Commissioners. We got consensus from the Board of Education's Finance Committee. 2 meetings ago, we received approval on the budget adjustments from the full Board of Education, and we are seeking your approval this morning. What you see are savings that have predominantly been accrued through vacancies. As Dr. Michael just mentioned, the numerous vacancies we had over the course of this year, we received savings due to salaries not paid out as well as benefits not received due to those vacancies. The bottom part of the document in front of you also shows where those savings have been reallocated. You can see that half of the savings were reallocated in the area of capital outlay. This is to enhance some of our building improvements, which is an area we actually reduced in the FY23 budget to balance the budget to the tune of about $1.4 million balance to FY23. So we're trying to pre-fund some of those items through this budget adjustment, which will fund projects at Western Heights, South Hagerstown High School, and provide a generator to secure the virtual program at the Funkstown School. And with that, we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
First and second, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next on the agenda, we're about 2 minutes early. I think we could go ahead and begin, stall a little bit. Will be public hearing application for zoning RZ-21005, an application for amendment to the zoning map. The purpose of this hearing is to hear public testimony concerning the matter. The procedure is as follows. We will first have staff introduce the matter. The applicant will then have the opportunity to testify, after which the hearing will be open for public comment and testimony. Public comment and testimony is limited to 3 minutes per speaker. After everyone who wishes to speak has done so, the applicant will have the opportunity for a brief rebuttal because the applicant has the burden. The hearing and the record will then close and no other comments, correspondence, or emails will be considered. The commissioners may discuss the issue and take it under advisement. They may reach a consensus to approve or deny the request. If a consensus is reached, the county attorney's office will prepare a proposed decision for a formal adoption at a later date. Is there anyone who'd like to testify? Please stand and take the oath. Krista, I turn it over to you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm, under the penalties of perjury, that the responses given and statements made will be the truth and the whole truth, nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Mr. Allen, would you please introduce the matter?
Thank you, Commissioners. Good morning, everyone. This is piecemeal rezoning case RZ 21-005 that we're bringing back before you here. As you recall, the applicant, Sharpsburg Pike Holdings LLC, is looking to establish a new mixed-use district at 10319 Sharpsburg Pike between the I-70 interchange and Poffenberger Road, totaling 9.92 acres. They would establish this floating zone atop the existing highway interchange base zoning. As a part of their concept plan, they are looking to establish 111 total new dwelling units at this location, 105 of which would be apartments and 6 of which would be townhomes. Just to remind you of kind of the chain of events that brought us back here this morning, in October of last year, the Washington County Planning Commission did recommend for denial of this application, which was based upon the inadequacy of school capacity in the South High School District to serve the market rate development that they were proposing at that time. In the aftermath of the public information meeting and leading into the Board of County Commissioners public hearing last November, the applicant did provide information concerning making these units age restricted. That information, again, was not available to the Planning Commission at the time of their first public information meeting, as well as reviewing agencies that looked at this application the first time. Therefore, in the aftermath of the Board of County Commissioners' first public hearing, they decided to remand it back to the Planning Commission for further input from them, as well as further public comment. That second public information meeting was held in February. Then in March, the Planning Commission did once again recommend for denial, citing the lack of adequate public facilities and infrastructure to serve the proposed development. The criteria for the establishment of a new mixed-use district we covered in the prior public hearing. It is also outlined in the staff report. Certainly welcome to answer any questions if you have about that, but it does come directly from the zoning ordinance. The only thing I want to touch on again briefly before turning things back over to the applicant would be kind of the remaining outlying concern that staff had with this application. As you may recall, one of the concerns that we brought up last time had to do with the availability of public water to this site. Again, that doesn't necessarily look to be the case because the properties are within the city's medium-range growth area boundary. They are given an existing service designation within the county's water and sewer plan. The issue, of course, again, is that the city's medium-range growth area boundaries are based upon existing zoning classifications. So were a more intensive use to be approved at this location, it is at least potentially possible that the MRGA boundary would have to be pulled in elsewhere to accommodate the increased water demand at this site. Again, it's difficult to say how that would predict when this site would actually be built out, but that is potentially a possibility after a rezoning at this site. So to wrap up, very much with the idea of the age restriction in place, staff does feel that a mixed-use district does fit the context of this neighborhood as Sharpsburg Pike has developed in this vicinity within the last 10 to 20 years. Again, our remaining concern really has to do with public water availability. And I would just simply share the fact that we have had 26 public comments, I believe, at this point, either oral or written, sent to our office. Thus far, all of them have been in opposition, primarily citing various APFO concerns, roads, traffic, and neighborhood safety that they are concerned about as a result of this development.
Travis, what did you just say about the MRG? A couple paragraphs ago, you talked about we would have to adjust the availability of water from other areas in the future or something like that?
So the cities, in their comprehensive plan, in their growth model, it takes into account existing zoning classifications. So the HI zoning that's at this property right now. If this were rezoned to the mixed-use district, there's at least the possibility that the water demand would be higher at this location than under the current zoning. Therefore, as the city updates its long-range plans, they may have to look at, whether they can meet that increased demand at this location versus other locations, which the zoning would remain the same.
So there's a possibility of this zoning moving this way, taken away from up here to provide more water for down here. That map just moves like that if it could happen.
Correct. And again, this is all, I would certainly stress that this
is not the time to ask questions. You need to save it. I didn't want to cut you off because they were important questions. So save those questions for when we come back. Travis, is there anything else that you have?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant please come forward and present your case? Thank you, Commissioners.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Zachary Kiefer on behalf of the applicant, Sharpsburg Pike Holdings LLC, 19405 Emerald Square, Suite 2100, Office 202 here in Hagerstown. And I'll let the gentlemen on either side of me introduce themselves.
Trevor Frederick, engineer, Frederick Simon Associates, 128 South Potomac Street, here representing the applicant.
Sasan Shaul, representing the applicant at 1741 Dual Highway, Hagerstown, Maryland.
So I appreciate Travis kind of giving us the sort of background in the procedural history that got us here to this point. It saves me a couple of minutes in explaining that to the board here. But I do want to step back for a minute and remind the board sort of how the goalposts have been, I would say, moved on us throughout this hearing. And, it's no hard feelings either way, but when we initially proposed the age restriction to the development, I think the commissioners, the board here rightly remanded it back to the Planning Commission for discussion and consideration. So we went to the Planning Commission, discussed the fact that the age restriction would be a condition of plat approval, final plat approval. Certainly, this wouldn't be the first age restricted community in this county. My office is right next door to one. There's plenty in the area. We know this is not a new thing. They're effective. They work. There's a market for them, and especially in this current housing climate and shortage of housing, really, I think the demand would be strong for these age-restricted units. So we went back, talked to the Planning Commission, resolved the concerns with the APFO regarding school adequacy. Then they brought up the traffic and the infrastructure of the water and sewer. So we thought we were going back and taking care of the APFO school adequacy issue. Then they decided that they didn't like the traffic. They thought the traffic was going to, or this development, the mixed-use overlay was going to increase traffic and sort of vaguely do something bad to water and sewer capacity. I don't have the record or the minutes in front of me, but Commissioner Wagner, you were there. If I'm certainly speaking out of turn, please let me know if
I didn't vote though, but I was there, yeah.
Yes, of course. So right now we're looking and we've got some information. Trevor's here to hopefully explain and allay any issues with the from a traffic and infrastructure standpoint. Again, we've taken care of the APFO with regard to school adequacy, putting that age restriction on the plat on any future conveyances of the property exempts the development from the APFO vis-a-vis the school adequacy component. Now, with regard to the shifting of the median range growth area that Travis referenced, that is speculative at this point, and I think that shifting or that consideration could potentially happen regardless of whether this is approved or not. So right now we have principal permitted uses of a hotel, which includes a sort of general run-of-the-mill short-term stay hotels. Also principal permitted use is an extended stay hotel, which means that the tenants or the residents are staying there for 30 days, sometimes longer. So to expressly or single out this MXC overlay and the proposed apartments as sort of the only reason that this reconsideration or reconfiguration of that area would occur, I don't think that's necessarily correct. Again, Trevor's here to put sort of a more technical spin on it, or point on it. But again, he's done some research. He has documentation from City of Hagerstown, Washington County, and has done some of his own research with regard to traffic and everything. So I'll let him sort of explain those concerns and how we've addressed those as well.
Sure, thanks, Zach. First off, this development makes sense in this location based on the infrastructure that's in place. That being the recent construction, the Sharpsburg Pike, the improvements on I-70, the water and sewer availability, et cetera. If we look at the traffic perspective first, we had a traffic impact study that was analyzed based on the hotel and the additional uses that are out there today. When we went back and we looked at it with the apartment use, there's actually less traffic generated by putting in the apartments versus the hotel and the high turnover restaurant. So in total, there's going to be less traffic with the apartment use than what was previously approved in the traffic study. Now, if we were to look at different uses, as standalone uses on that lot, the apartments which we're proposing today would generate an average daily traffic of 813 vehicles, 813. If we were to go to a principally permitted use as the hotel, it's 1,438 trips generated, almost 600 more. If we were to go with a restaurant, this is all in the same square footage area that we're proposing for the apartments, you're looking at 1,284 trips generated per day. Again, 813 was our baseline with the apartments. So that's the traffic impact we're talking about. Now we have water and sewer letters from the City of Hagerstown and the Department of Water Quality in which they said that water was available upon extension of the sewer and water mains, which we are doing with this development. So again, they're saying there is adequate water and sewer available at this site. And that came up in our preliminary consultation with all the agencies.
Thanks, Trevor. So really, and Travis also mentioned the 25 or 35 comments that their office received. Should come as no surprise that I think all, or most, if not all, were in opposition. But I did have a chance to review some of those. So I would summarize those concerns as mainly being with traffic, infrastructure, and school capacity. So I believe what the applicant has presented actually takes care and negates any concerns with overextending the school system and the capacity there at South, Hicks, and MAK Dowb, I believe. The MXC overlay would actually reduce traffic counts over what is principally permitted already at this site, and the water and sewer capacity is there. So, you know, I'm kind of at a loss really at this point. There've been 3 opportunities before the Planning Commission to point to specific things with the development plan that you know, if there was some concern, something specific that needed worked on, we were happy to do that. This isn't the final stage of this development process. We still need final plat approval. So if there are any specific concerns, design items that Trevor could work on and figure out, we'd be happy to take those under advisement and work with the board here to find something. But, you know, bottom line is this application meets the requirements of the MXC overlay, both from a fit and compatibility standpoint and the bulk requirements that are listed. So with that, you know, I'd submit my time and reserve the rest for Mr. Showell here.
So when we started looking at this project many years ago and had it laid out for a hotel and shopping center, this is prior to the MX zoning even being an option, which is this overlay. There was always a concern that I heard was that this was backing up right up against residential, and that the people that live out there would rather see something other than a 4 or 5 story hotel, major commercial up against them. And so we went down this path, met with staff, and actually was prior to anyone else being here that it was here, we said, if not this location for an MX zoning, then where? The whole purpose of an MX was to be a transitional space between residential and commercial. I can't think of a more suitable space than between the residents that live out there and Sharpsburg Pike. Find me a place that has a depth that long with residential already, a commercial already in front, and there's a space behind them. By turning it down, you are saying you want commercial right up against the residential, Highway 1 right up against it, and then you're also saying that this is, I just don't know what space would be a MX zoning transitional location. I've asked staff to show me different locations that they think would be, and no one's ever given me, say, oh, this is the spot that MX should be, or that's the spot. It's always been based on a place that would be high-use commercial in front, residential possibly already existing behind it, and a place to put in between to allow something similar to this in a commercial area. So the services are there, we feel. We've taken care of the school adequacy. The water, I think the uses that are there that we could put on there would be more intense, would be also more intense for traffic. So with that, I would say I think this is a great location for an MX overlay that still has a long ways to go through the approval process, through planning, through design, and go down that process. So turning that over, I don't think we have anything else to present, correct? Thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions?
Thank you. We will now open the hearing for public comment. Anyone in the front row? Anyone in any row? Would like to come forward for public comment?
Make one comment.
Okay, please come forward.
Like
and-
I said,
Yeah.
I have this at nighttime, so.
Yeah, but I need your name and address for the record.
Jeff Bowers.
Okay.
Okay.
Did you took the oath too, right?
I just want to say, have us at nighttime so people can make it.
You need,
Okay, that's all right. That's okay what he said. Thank you, sir. Is there any other folks who'd like to come forward? Okay, seeing no more public testimony, the applicant has the opportunity for a brief rebuttal if you have anything else to say.
I think we've submitted and we'll turn it back over to the board.
Thank you. After that, do the commissioners have any questions?
I've heard this about 3 times now, and I do have some concerns and some positives and some negatives here. Under HI, it's going to be several questions. Maybe it'll bring some more questions. Under HI, is that all the permissible uses under HI what it is now, or has there been something excluded from that? I mean, the numerous things that could go in HI is its zone prop now.
Right.
There's, anything under HI zoning can go there, right?
That's correct.
Okay. And this 111 homes, you mentioned a 5-story hotel. You said apartments. Is this stacked apartments? Is this duplexes? Is this?
Do you have the drawing in front of you, Commissioner Wagner?
No, you can just tell me about
Okay.
it. I'm looking
Basically, there's 2 buildings in the back here we're talking about. They each have the same footprint. The building closest to the H.K. Douglas Drive, the first floor would be a combination of retail and commercial. The 2 stories above that would be residential. The building south of that is a 3-story building as well. Each floor would be residential.
Okay, I guess my concern while I'm getting there is I'm concerned with adequate schools for people. And this age 55 restriction should eliminate school-age children. Typically, a 55 community would have nobody under the age of 18 living there permanently, and somebody has to be 55.
Correct.
But now we've got them stacked on 2 levels. I personally sell 55 communities, and people don't like steps. So if we're,
Elevators are in our buildings.
in all of them.
In all of them. And we've done that at every single project, all of Rosewood, all of our communities all have elevators. Except for one in Springfield, which was done maybe almost 2 decades.
So there's elevators proposed in these buildings?
Correct.
And how many levels are the buildings? Just curiosity. You don't have anything, okay. How do we police the 55 restriction? How do we police it?
For Rosewood, we had it at one point for 5 years. And every time they make an application, they have to fill it out. They have to give us an ID. They have to go through the same screening process.
I know, but what happens when I sell it or rent it to somebody that's 22 that has school-age children or
Well,
something?
it's in a deed.
It would be recorded in the
It's
deed.
recorded in the deed, so that.
And no one gave me that answer when I asked it
Yeah,
before.
I'm sorry. It always is recorded in the deed, and it has to be.
And I think any other question I might have would be, so HI, you can have your 55 community, it's all 55, correct? 111 units are all be
That's what we're
55?
proposing, yes.
That's all I have, guys,
Commissioners, any more questions before I close the hearing?
Just to follow up to Commissioner Wagner's question, who polices it? So, I understand it's in the deed, but, people break
Well, I can
homeowners
tell you that
association covenants all the
County
time.
polices zoning all the time when people have trash in the yard. Most of the people, when there's a problem, it's the residents that live there that call up and call the county. I mean, I can tell you, I've had 55-year-old communities, and the very second that someone has their children, their grandchildren staying overnight for more than like 2 days, the neighbor is the one who's calling and screaming at the county office. It's not, the police themselves, just like when we get complaints for trash on a yard, it's usually a neighbor that calls in. The strongest police is self-policing, number one. Number two, it's in the deed. It's a requirement. I mean, we have lots of things that are policed by the county that are zoning related that are handled through the zoning office. If there's a complaint, it gets called to your office, and it goes down the same process that if someone operates a hair salon in their home and they're not supposed to, or operates a business that they're dumping things, or they're using their yard for vehicular use, if they start doing a brewery on their property, I've seen that done. I mean, all these things are handled through the zoning office, but the main primary is that it's in the deed, it's policed through recordings, it's policed through sales, and it's policed through the residents that live next door is the primary one.
Commissioner Kiefer, if I may, from sort of a practical aspect, you're looking at enforcement via a homeowners association, condo association, management company who's sort of the private enforcement arm of what the county does on the public side. The restrictive covenants also include the ability of whatever association is formed to seek declarative relief through the courts. They generally have the ability to issue and impose fines against the residents for violation of the covenants, similar to to what Sasan was saying. This is similar. This is really no different than in an HOA if you allow your grass to get above the prescribed height, or painting your exterior a different color, or without having gone through the architectural review committee. So there is an internal mechanism to policing this, and if the county isn't enforcing or imposing fines, the management association, the condo association, what have you, they have the ability to seek redress through the courts, and again, monetary fines.
But the main thing is that so far that I know of, the county has many projects that are age restricted, and I don't hear. I asked their office how many complaints they've gotten, how many issues has come up, and I've heard zero. I mean, I've heard there's been not one that I'm aware of. So, over there, Dave Lyles' community out there, that's, behind the, there's communities all over that are age restricted. And so I don't want to say it's not a problem, but it hasn't seemed to be a problem in our community that people have been breaking the rules. Generally speaking, people follow the rules.
Commissioners, any more questions?
I would just say the 55 issue wasn't issue for me. More so for me was the outcry against the project from people who actually live in that area.
But they're always outcrying on everything.
I understand that, but I
If I was a hotel going
think
up there, I got an outcry. If I put a shopping center, I got an outcry.
I don't know. I mean, I asked a couple of them, and they said they would rather see a warehouse or whatever it was, a hotel there than it's been a while back since we heard this, but they would rather see that than what is being proposed. For me personally, I think changing or making exceptions to code should be an exception, not a general rule of thumb. But I was curious if we received any comments from anybody that lives in that area in support of this project. So we've not received, from the people that actually reside in that area, we've not received one person that has come forward and said, we want to see this project happen.
I've been doing this for 25, 30 years, and I rarely see, emails that come out. I think 26, from my experience, just from me doing this for a long time, is a very small number. I've been in processes where there's been 3. When we went down the road and went from 20, we were asking to go to 40 townhouses, from 24 for a special exception, we had over 300 negative comments, 300. So from a standpoint of you're saying there was nothing in support, 26 was a small number, I think, in the opposition category than normally, as opposed to 300 that I just saw, on a similar project.
But there's other options, I think, that you have available to you.
For uses out there?
For use. I mean, I'm all in support of business. I'm an entrepreneur by nature.
No one wants, if the county commissioners feel that this is not a place to have an MX zoning, I've been trying to figure out where's the county to show me a place where transitional, where you have retail in the front and residential right up against it, that this isn't, what was the intent of MX zoning? The MX zoning was for this intent to be this transitional space. It's not for a special exception. This is, we're asking for an overlay in something that the county created, a MX zoning, right? The county created that function to come into you guys and say, what are the spaces in this county that has commercial up front, residential behind it? This is my understanding of what it is, what staff told me. So if I'm wrong with this, they can correct me. But I was told where commercial existing, residential's there, where you put a more heavy, intense residential in between, something like this. And I thought this was, and what I heard from this was the space to do it.
All right, that's all I have.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any more comments for?
I have 2 questions for staff, and then after staff answers, if the applicant wants to respond, that's fine. In terms of school capacity in the 55-plus community, we were given staff's report and analysis, and it is dated for August of 2021, so I guess that was before the 55-plus community plan came out. But it was included again in our agenda package as if that's material to our decision. Are we to continue to consider the school capacity? It was included in our package, that's why I'm asking.
The staff.
That information is required to be put within our staff report. reports just as a matter of fact. When you do your findings of fact, you're supposed to have the demographics of the area so that you have a picture of what the area looks like. So we put that information in there more for informational purposes than we did for consideration of what is being asked here in terms of age restriction. That's sort of a separate issue that goes along with it. So what we did is we said, here are the facts of the case, here are the demographics, here are what the schools look like. The applicant rebuts with, yes, that's what it looks like, that's accurate, but we're not going to impact schools because of this age restriction. So it's more for demographic information and background and findings of fact.
Okay. Did you want to add anything?
I have one thing to add about just the age restriction. We have currently about 600 units in the county for residential uses. None of them are age restricted. And I can tell you just in general, we have a ton of applicants that would like to be in a space that is without children around them. Because when you're in a setting where multi-story, it's very difficult when people are very noisy, people go to bed at different hours. So I can tell you the need is highly needed to have a space where people can have affordable housing that is for an age-restricted community who are on, many people are on a sort of, I won't say the word all fixed income, but an income that may be for many people who are looking at this product where income is important, quietness is important, and certain criteria that happen that don't include lots of children. Trash chutes, things that are designed from the very beginning for them, right? Does that make sense? If you're designing a community that you know from day one, you're making it specifically for that and not making it for with children, with this, with that, you're going through that to that active adult right then. That's what this is. It's near the services. People that are active adult like to be close, they don't want to drive as far distances. All those things are met by this location for that.
Okay. My second question for staff. The medium range growth area was mentioned in water access, and there may be a request, I guess, to come before the city council to approve water. Joe, can you talk a little bit more about what that request might be, when that might come along? And let me, also state, when we had the decision with the Black Rock rezoning, I had a council member quip to me afterwards, well, you didn't really have the ultimate decision because that would have had to come before us for water, and I don't know if we would have approved it. So, truly, would there be another step to require the city council's approval to supply water to this area? If the MRGA would have to be squeezed in some area, does that require the city approval in any way?
Not from the city council that I'm aware of. So basically the way that this would go is, should this rezoning be approved, the applicant would then proceed through their normal development process and receive approvals from the different agencies. As part of that approval process, they would go to the city water department, where they would have to go through the review process to determine whether or not water is available. Because this property is located within their approved medium-range growth area boundary, and they have submitted a letter, I believe, that said that water is available at the moment, they would likely, if water is available, go ahead and issue that approval and issue that allocation. They do it very similarly to how we do sewer allocation. It's first come, first served. So they would likely get approved for that. Where we come into play with the MRGA and what we're explaining in terms of shifting that bubble is that by allowing this development to move forward, that has then changed the model a bit for us when we're evaluating development as a whole in that growth area. So what we have to do then, and we don't do this for every single development that comes through, we do this on a comprehensive basis. So every so often we'll run the numbers and say, does the city feel comfortable that they can still service their medium range growth area boundary? And that's their function, that's not really ours. We've tried to participate with them as collaborators because we don't really have any authority over that utility. However, we try to work with the city and say, okay, if you can't service what's there now, how can we help negotiate what we see as growth patterns in Washington County in the future? So it's extremely confusing, to say the least, because in these particular instances, is water available? Yes, the answer has been given by the city. Yes, they are in the medium range growth area boundary, therefore, they fall under that service provider, regulation, I guess. What will come of it, we won't know until we do our next run of the model and have to decide whether or not that growth area boundary needs to be shrunk to then provide service to, within the grasp of the city. I understand it's very complicated. It's this hypothetical bubble that sits out there and it's constantly shifting depending on which development comes in, where, when, and how. But that's the standard that we go by, is that, yes, there's water available. However, it could potentially have an impact on future land use planning decisions.
Let me follow up with this modeling thing, because I've done a lot of research in this. This is a model. We could put over here, as Trevor has explained, extended stay units, and I think the last time I did it, I could put 300 extended stay units on here, total, with the way you could lay it out with its parking requirements and everything, which would put a much higher use of water than just the apartments that we're proposing. So the modeling, they just take what they think is an average use of this potential lot, and they assign a number to it. I don't even know anyone's ever given me exactly what the model has shown for this specific site, if it's 110 EDUs or it's, but we've always shown a hotel here, and there's 80 or 90 units for the one hotel. That's just for one part of the land. So I believe in the modeling that has always been used, because if they took the site plans that have been proposed and the traffic studies that have been proposed in the past, have always shown more than what it would be used for the water that's gonna go out for this potential residential use. So, I think that actually the water's gonna be less with this overlay than what has, been proposed in the past for the site. So I don't think that's really a factor at this point.
Commissioners, any more questions? Hearing none. The public hearing is now concluded.
Thank you guys so much for your time and consideration.
Commissioners, we may discuss the issue, take it under advisement, or reach a consensus to approve or deny. Commissioners, your thoughts?
I'd sort of like to have one more week to think about it.
Commissioners, you okay with waiting?
There's no meeting next week.
I mean, I had more questions that I wanted to answer, but I could ask them right now and see what.
Well, the meeting's now closed.
Okay.
Commissioners, thoughts, comments? We could.
I agree with Randy. I wouldn't mind taking a week or two to consider it.
I mean, I still have some concerns amongst us, and I still have, I'm back to the part where, me personally, if I knew exactly what was gonna be there, I'd sooner have that than highway interchange and a lot of disruption from, commercial development. But, the word affordable housing's been mentioned a couple times. And, I don't know what it does to the property values of the other people there.
All right, I have two want to take under advisement as our third, right? Wayne, Terry, thoughts?
We don't want to discuss it now. Okay, that's fine.
It's the meeting's closed.
Yeah, but you said any discussion.
Well, I closed the public hearing. We have thoughts, and I'm asking if you want to take it under advisement or make a decision. Didn't really
Take it under
see.
advisement, okay. I just thought you were asking for discussion.
Discussion on whether to take it under advisement
Okay.
or approve or deny.
And the public hearing is closed and the record is closed.
record is
But
closed.
that doesn't mean that the commissioners can't ask questions of staff.
Let's let it go for now.
Okay. Commissioners, 2 under advisement. Terry, is that under advisement? 3, that's 4. Wayne, 5 under advisement. Thank you very
Consensus,
much.
bring it back to later.
Bring it back at a later date. Thank you, everyone. We have 10 minutes to the next public hearing. Let's take a 5-minute recess.